Hi there, Tracy Nutton here. Going to be making this card using a range of Sweet Poppy stencils for you today, and we're going to be using the Bockingford watercolour cardstock, which is also from Sweet Poppy Stencils. It's absolutely brilliant. So for this card you will need a piece of card that measures 14 by 14, which I've already got on my stamp press. You will need a stamp press as well today. I'm going to be using a range of Memento inks: Bahama Blue, Nautical Blue, Cottage Ivy and Danube Blue. Let's move those across here. I'm going to be using the beautiful Snowman stamp and the Christmas words #1. And for my, I don't know if you can see them, for my snowflakes I used a chalky white embossing enamel, thick one. I've had this forever, so if you have one in your stash, any thick embossing enamel will be fine. If you don't have any, that's fine. You can also use acrylic paint, it's up to you, and a paintbrush, and you can just use some splats. Okay, let's get going. So cardstock measuring 14 by 14, and you want to put your snowman so he's just sitting towards there, because then you need to be able to have space at the bottom to put your sentiment if you so wish. So for this technique we're building up the layers. Now, depending on how juicy your ink pads are will depend on how many layers of ink you will need to apply. So all I did was think about what I wanted where. So I wanted his twig arms and the greenery in his hat to be green, so I've gone up towards the top. Then I wanted his scarf to be quite dark blue, the long scarf, and his eyes and his buttons. And then for the rest of it I've used the Bahama Blue and the Danube Blue, and it doesn't matter because it tends to blend really well on the actual stamp itself. So I'm just going to make sure my stamp doesn't have an air pocket. Let me just wipe his little tummy. There we go, give that a bit of a wipe, because we want his tummy to stay as empty from ink as possible. Okay, and then we go in and we repeat the process, and you'll see the colours intensifying as I add those layers of ink. So exactly the same, dark for his eyes, down his scarf and his buttons, and then we've got the Danube, the Bahama Blue at the top, and then the Danube Blue at the bottom. Yeah, there we go. And it's up to you. There's no right or wrong. You just build those colours up. If you wanted a pink snowman, that's also up to you. So just put the colours where you would like it. Okay, let's have a look. And I think just a little bit more, especially towards the foliage on his hat. Just making sure that we're building that colour up. Apologies if you can hear a fan blowing, but we're in the middle of a heat wave and I'm in my she shed, and it's a little bit warm because I have to record with the door shut so that you can't hear the neighbours playing in the garden. So let's do this. So apologies. I'm hoping the fan isn't too loud though. Okay, so let's have a little look now. So I'm happy with that. So all I'm going to do is give my stamp a little bit of a spritz and a bit of a wipe. And I'm not moving it at all. It needs to stay exactly where it is on the stamp press. And then I will just dry it with a lint-free cloth, because we don't want any little hairs and little wispy bits. There we go. And now I'm going to leave exactly everything where it is, and I'm just going to spritz out. You want to spritz towards the outside of the card because you want your snowman to stay with as little colour as possible, and just gently spray. Just a little bit there. So, and then we just wait for it to separate. Just be very careful because it will pull underneath your magnet. So just lift your magnet up, give it a wipe, and then pop it back down, because you want that to look natural around the outside. But what you can do as well, see if I can find one, you can grab yourself a little bit of a paintbrush and some water, being very careful not to spill it, and then if you've got an area that you think didn't quite split as much as you'd like and you just want to add some extra water to it, you can. And on the same token, if you've got some areas that you think you'd prefer to be less colour, then you just go in and you just tap with a clean piece of kitchen towel or cloth, and then you can just get that colour to come out as far as you want. See, you can drag it out quite like that. Now it's quite warm in here, so with any luck I won't have to heat dry it for too long. It will buckle and twist, and that's fine, but my aim is to make sure that when I reline it back up that it is touching these edges, because it needs to go back exactly where it was before I put the VersaFine Clear Nocturne over the top. So let's dry this. Now it is really warm in here today, so it actually hasn't taken that long to dry, but I will just go over, and then I'm just going to make sure that I'm pulling this card back into this corner and down to the bottom edge, so that when I stamp we shouldn't end up with a shadow image. Let's have a little look and see. So just making sure that it's exactly where it started. Now we're going to take our VersaFine Clear Nocturne, but you could use the dark blue, and then all this does is just pops the detailing back on and gives you a crisp, hopefully a crisp finish. And again, this might take a few layers to build up, but that's okay. There we go. See, you don't end up with a shadow image. So just make a mental note of where your cardstock is. It's better to butt it up towards the corner, because then you know that that's exactly where it's got to go back. Okay, applying some pressure. I think just one more. Just want to make sure that all of this edges and his face have the detail that I would like. Okay, last one. Okay, for the next part of our card, we just need to take our sentiment. Okay, let's wipe our stamp just very quickly. Again, and he's ready. If you're doing lots of cards, you could do each of these layer by layer. It's quite a nice quick card, hopefully. And then you could do your sentiments with all of them after. So now you could go back in and do another one, and then at the end you can take your snowman off, pop your sentiment on, and then put the sentiment on all your cards that you've made. So it's quite a nice little card. Festive wishes. Okay, so I'm just going to move my magnets up a little bit, and I'm just going to make sure that these are clean. Let's use my piece of acetate. So all I did was roughly put them on where I wanted them. Festive wishes, and then I used my finger roughly to measure and make sure that it was more or less in the center. Okay, let's pop this down. Lift this off and have a quick look. Okay, I'm happy with that. So it's Festive Wishes, and then we're inking up using exactly the same ink as before. Again, because it's cardstock, it may just take a couple of attempts to get that ink crisp and beautiful. See, just ever so slightly in places, so we just gently tap over. Gentle pressure, and I'm happy with that. So all we need to do now is add our snow. Let me just move this off and I'll give this a wipe later. So the easiest way for me to add the snow, because every time I was doing it before it was blowing around everywhere and I was like, oh no, this isn't fun, not quite sure how I'm going to get this to work. So the way I got this to work was I put some water in my hands and I just spritzed it with some water. Make sure that your hands are clean, your water's clean, obviously, and then adjust. That's better, I think. And then all I did was I got my little tray, I popped my image in here, and then sprinkled it over. And then when I stood it up now, it's easy enough to remedy because obviously I don't want it on the snowman, so just give it a wipe and then it will wipe off of him. So I don't want any on him at all, so that's fine. Give it a bit of a tap. But you'll notice everywhere that the water was, the snow has stayed. So I definitely don't want any snow on my words, so I just give that a quick brush off and a gentle tap. And it's worth just taking a bit of time to make sure that you've got your snow exactly where you want it. There we go, quite like that. Just checking. Okay, and then we get our heat gun. And as you can see, when you put your heat gun on it, it doesn't blow away. Now, because it's a thick embossing powder, it will take a bit of time. And even when the water evaporates, it doesn't seem to blow the snow away. And there we have it. One snowman in a snowy scene. And then all I did was I took a 7" by 7" piece of card. Well, I made it into a card because I couldn't get any. The creamy colour cards were too creamy, so I managed to get some ivory looking card, and I made a 7 by 7 card base. But what you can do is you can use some cream card to stick over the top of a 7 by 7 card base anyway. Okay, I'm just going to wipe this because I can feel snow everywhere. There we go. And then I'm just going to mat that onto 14.5 by 14.5. Going to use double-sided tape today. It's a technique that I use quite a lot. I really like this technique. If you're not confident in colouring, it's one of those that can make you feel more confident. It's quite quick, which I really like, especially if you've got lots of cards to make. I'm just going to peel off, mat and layer this onto my background colour. On here, give it a bit of a bend. That's it, straighten it back up a little bit. Let's have a little look. Now remember, you can put a drop of wet glue onto this to give it some wiggle room, but I'm literally just going to pop it on here and then I will cut any excess off. Okay, there we go. Move that out of the way. My guillotine in, just chop that down to the size that I like. One, maybe a little slither more. And yeah, 2. And then I just pop this onto the card base, which is 7 by 7. So I'm hoping you've enjoyed this quick tutorial today. Hope it inspires you to have a go. And hope you're having a good day, whatever you're doing. Thank you for joining me today. Here we go. Pop our lovely little snowman. Just give it a pat down. And there you have a lovely snowman card. And again, just making sure that you leave those areas nice and clear, and it just makes your snowman pop off the page. So thank you for joining me. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. And if you were doing this without the snow, I would do a mask of your snowman, pop the mask over, or pop your stamp back on top. I'll show you. If you pop your stamp back on top and then you splat with your white acrylic and cover your wording up, then you won't get any on your snowman. The only other thing that I've just realised I did was I just extended the base out, so I didn't want him to fall over. So all I did was I got a black pen and just gently built up that colour, and then did exactly the same on this side. Wanted him to have a look like he'd been sitting in the snow for a while. And then just add some extra details along, just making him look like he's grounded. And that was all I did. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye for now.